with George McMillan III again. Just doing a quick little update. Gonna see what has been going on in Latvia.
All
Lithuania
right.
border.
Yeah, Lithuania. So I guess everybody already knows another pipeline blew up. So the pipeline explosion coincided on the Lithuania Day of Freedom Defenders, when that was commemorating the 1991 invasion of or skirmish between Russia and Lithuania. Not going to pretend to know too much about it. That was a long time ago. So the pipeline blew up near Pasvalys in Lithuania on the Pasvalys Swallowy Road. I'm never going to pronounce that right.
I don't think even I should attempt it.
Yeah, I can't. Anyway, it's the approximate. The red star has the approximate location of the blast. The original pipeline teed off the Bruzba pipeline in '78. Then it splits and goes into Latvia. So apparently it blew up before that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, later on they teed the Yamal pipeline into it. Okay, yeah, there's a bigger map. So I did my storyboard there.
Yeah, as always, your slides are very helpful.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a better map of the overall pipeline map. So they were saying that the damage is kind of minimal insofar as there's a parallel pipeline and they can shift oil back or gas back and forth. So yes, so Mayor Gintaras Gigazinkas of Pasvalys said that planes were flying low near the area and it was suspicious. Amber Grid Chief Executive Nemis Biknius said the pipeline was over 40 years old and probably blew up due to technical malfunction. We've already been arguing, as explained in the Russian counter strategic plan in the GWM3 Impact Analytics Working Brothers videos, that the Russian play has always been to wait out the sanctions and try to get people to pay in rubles. So people conjecturing on the comment section of these different news shows that it's got to be Russian sabotage. It's just completely absurd. If anyone was going to sabotage it, it'd be the United States to protect the petrodollar, as we already argued in the other videos.
Extensively,
the United States. Yeah, in all of them. So yeah, the U.S. strategy, we went over it in the last couple of videos. Last video exclusively. Here's the title of the RAND reports from 2019: Overextending and Unbalancing Russia. That's the 12-pager. Extending Russia, Competing from Advantageous Ground. That's the 354 exhaustive strategic plan of the United States. You know, they certainly do appear to be following it because they expanded NATO eastward. They blocked in all the pipelines and ports. You know, I did the 6 Power Center video on the Working Brother channel. We did several videos on it with Matt Bracken. I did a long video on it with Joaquin Flores. And I did a 2-hour video on it with Felix Rex. So yeah, the expectation, it seems from looking at all the Washington Post articles in February, May, and February, March, and April, and forward, is they always kept on saying that Russian economy is going to collapse because of sanctions. It's going to collapse any minute now, any day now, any week now, any month now, and we're 10, 11 months into this. So it seemed like the bet was that the Russian economy would collapse, and it hasn't. You were in Moscow, and tell us how the stores were. All of them were full.
Exactly, all of them were full. Everything seems stocked. There's, gasoline prices are normal. People are going about their day normally. Everything's fine. There's like, no impact from the sanctions from what I could tell.
Yeah. I mean, for one thing is for sure, their food prices aren't going to go up. Their energy and electric bills certainly aren't going to go up. Their gas bill and diesel bills certainly aren't going to go up. If anything, they'll go down. So time is on Russia's side, and this, they can wait this out. As long as you have food and fuel and everybody's warm and eating, you're not going to have any real riots. The riots are all going to eventually be in the West. Well, they've already been in Western Europe. People are cutting way back. And we were talking about earlier the Michael Yon and Jordan Peterson video that was talking about, that video was over the Netherlands trying to evict the farmers, and there might be a pending food shortage and a deindustrialization of Germany. We did videos on that a little bit. Okay, so here, there was a three major points to the fake Rand report video. Yeah, in 2014 they thought the U.S. was dragging NATO into a war with Russia. The fake Rand report. Oh, Fiona Hill's interview with Lex Fridman is ridiculous. That arguing that Putin needs a psychological exam. What's really needed is a geostrategic assessment. We went over the 6 power center theories with several people. The goal is, had Russia been unimpeded, Russia would be fully integrated with the pipelines, railways, with five of the world's power centers. That would leave the United States isolated in power center number 1. So we discussed how it seems like the United States had a destabilization strategy under Stansfield Turner and Zbigniew Brzezinski, as outlined in his book, The Grand Chessboard. There you go. So, the late 70s, 80s, and 90s might have been characterized as a regime change destabilization strategy. Russia collapsed. Then there was a expansion of NATO eastward into the old Warsaw Pact countries to take over Poland, Ukraine, the Baltic states, to separate Russia from the Central European Warsaw Pact allies. They've done that. The United States has spent a lot of money influencing the elections to separate Russia from the Slavic world. So the United States then went into the regime change nation building strategy to try to move into Western Central Asia to get secure oil and gas and mineral supplies. The idea there is to move into those areas, make them allies of the U.S., split up Russia and China. With the withdrawal of Afghanistan, we all know that failed. So it looks like the United States has gone back to an Operation Cyclone regime change destabilization process instead. They pivoted to Ukraine. They, like the fake Rand report says, NATO increased weapon sales to the Ukrainian army to it's to shell the breakaway Russian republics in the Donbass. The Minsk Accords wanted to have more of a federalized system where each of the provinces would basically have a governor like they do in the United States, rather than a more centrally developed program. The Minsk Accords were, Angela Merkel said they were just signed just to buy some time to build up the Ukrainian army. We were talking about earlier that, the United States has always been against Nord Stream. Helmut Schmidt and Angela Merkel built Nord Stream 1 and 2. The United States threw $1 billion in rigging the elections influencing the elections in Bulgaria to stop the South Stream pipeline from 2011 to 2014. Eventually, they did that. Russia responded by subsequently building a Turk Stream pipeline that went from the Novorossiysk area to eastern Turkey on the Baltic, just enough to bypass Georgia. So now Russia teased their gas and oil pipelines into Turk Stream. They're fungible goods, so they're still selling oil and gas to Europe through Turkey. It's difficult to stop. We already went over in the other videos extensively how the United States had to do something to keep countries from fleeing the petrodollar and buying Russian oil and natural gas in rubles. The more countries that leave the petrodollar would put the United States in a precarious situation, because then there's nothing to prop up the United States $31 trillion in debt. Germany didn't seek any alternative solutions during the summer. And as it started to get a little bit colder and the protests in Germany started to increase, all of a sudden the Russian pipelines blew up. So I characterized that by saying someone wanted to take bilateral non-dollar trade agreements between Germany and Russia completely off the table. As fall and winter is approaching, a bilateral deal becomes more likely. Someone wanted to make sure that Germany did not strike a deal with Russia and then resupply Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Austria, and the Danube countries with Russian gas. Someone wanted to make sure that the Germany and Central Europe could not exit the petrodollar trading system. Instead, someone wants Western and Central Europe to follow the Green New Deal deindustrialization program while selling them LNG at a much higher price, while putting the German automakers out of work to punish them. Next slide. I'm just reading straight off the slides here because we already went over it. So, since the only countries interested in protecting the petrodollar is the US and the UK, it only stands to reason that they were behind the Nord Stream sabotage and also politically sabotaged the South Stream in 2011, 2014, while making public statements for years about stopping the Nord Stream projects one way or the other. Yeah, it stopped, all right. So here in this case, we have another pipeline blowing up. The United States chaotically pulled out of Afghanistan, and the United States has been arming the Sunni violent extremist organizations, called terrorist organizations normally, in the region. And $2 billion went missing out of SIGAR. SIGAR is Special Investigator General of an Afghan Reconstruction. The State Department say the money is unaccountable, but all of a sudden there's protests in the Sistan Baluchistan area of Iran and in the Tabriz area of Iran where the Kurdish and Armenians are. Pipelines. There's also a pipeline problem in there's protests in Gwadar port where China is. The United States isn't also fixated on blocking just Russian infrastructure. They also want to block Chinese infrastructural projects. So coincidentally, there's the protests in the Sistan Baluchistan side on the Iranian side of the border are to stop the international north-south trade corridor. Right now, it's that's the Charbahar port, so they're trying to block the railway project between Kash and Charbahar port. They're also trying to block the Chinese port in Gwadar and the gas pipeline in the Pakistan Baluchistan side of the border blew up last week. So again, it looks like the only people that would stand to stop Russian and Chinese integration projects would be the United States.
And these
So
pipelines
again,
were underground, apparently, yeah? These
yeah.
freshest stew pipelines.
Yeah, well, just to close out this pipeline, we're just using the same logic all over the place. It's the 6 power center logic. But yeah, you're right. The chief executive for the Amber Grid pipeline that I mentioned before, Bicnius, said that the pipelines were underground and sabotage is unlikely. On the other hand, if the pipelines just blew apart because of rust, well, they would just leak. They wouldn't catch fire. It looked like it was a gloomy, rainy day there, or at least foggy. Under those circumstances, something sparking off a fire might be unlikely. Unless there's friction
pretty
created.
Unlikely to me.
Yeah,
pretty unlikely to me. But yeah, that I think we've covered the most recent pipeline update. We'll call this pipeline update number 1 or something like that. Everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking around to the end. This was a short update on the most recent pipeline explosion. And come back. There'll be a lot more talks with George. George, thank you again.
Thank you.